Hi, I'm Alex, but many call me Dr. Mama Bird. I'm a wife, a mom, a chiropractor, and maternal health care advocate. After a traumatic birth experience that led to an unplanned C-section over 6 years ago, I found myself searching for answers on how to heal. Even though I was in the maternal health care space myself, I found it difficult to find the resources needed to truly recover and restore my body. After 2 years of research, I found myself pregnant with our second child and was able to have an amazing redemptive VBAC birth experience with my dream team. After that incredible experience, I felt God had placed on my heart a mission to help other mamas and families have a similar redemptive experience. And in time, with my husband's help, we developed the C-section restoration method. On this journey, we've met a ton of amazing healthcare providers that are often considered hidden gems in the Dallas area. Now, as a part of that mission, I'm here to connect you and other families with the incredible healthcare providers who are passionate about supporting you and helping you to achieve your family's health and wellness goals. I'm Dr. Alex Pankoch, and this is the Dr. Mama Bird Show.
Alrighty, welcome Mama Birds to today's episode. We're so glad to have you. And today I'm super stoked because we're going to talk to a friend of mine who is also a business owner, a mama, and she's super passionate about what she does. Her name is Stephanie Brown, and she is a lactation consultant with Nourish and Nurture Lactation Consulting here in the DFW area. She serves primarily North Dallas. However, she travels and goes to homes, and I'm going to let her share more about herself.
Yeah, hi, nice to meet everybody. I'm Stephanie. I am a mom to 3, and I'm also a nurse and lactation consultant, and I am primarily in, like she said, Prosper, Frisco, McKinney. I'm mostly office-based, do some home visits for young babies, and been doing private practice for 7 years, I think now. I've been a nurse for 26 years or 27, something like that. So I started in the hospital and neonatal ICU and postpartum and mother baby, always kind of moms and babies, and then led me to lactation, and then left the hospital and started my own practice.
Awesome. So for those of the mamas or people watching this at home, could you tell us exactly what does a lactation consultant do?
Sure. Yeah, I help moms with meeting normal breastfeeding expectations, challenges, everything from, is this right? Is this what it's supposed to look like? To, hey, we have a problem and I need some help. My baby won't latch, or I have soreness, or I need to go back to work. How do I pump? How do I use bottles? So literally everything about lactation and breastfeeding is what we do.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you're here because a lot of mamas really struggle at the very beginning, especially first-time moms, or if there's any difference between for baby 1, baby 2, baby 3, and not knowing how to troubleshoot that on your own, or having, the community, the village that we used to have,
yes.
Being there, having somebody, a professional like yourself who's doing this for quite a long time, can come in and really help give moms peace of mind that baby is growing, getting what they need, and doing it in a way that allows them to hopefully reach their breastfeeding goals. Yeah. Awesome. So I'm curious, what really got you interested in lactation consulting in the first place?
Probably working in the NICU, I could just see a difference in babies sometimes in their growth and how they acted when they had breast milk. And we formed a breastfeeding committee. This was, in the late 90s, early 2000s. And so breastfeeding was kind of starting to come back into fashion, sort of. I mean, we always knew that it was a great source of nutrition for babies, but the research was really taking off about how breast milk is dose dependent, and the more that these premature babies had, the better they did. And so we started a breastfeeding committee at the hospital and just always loved it. And then, of course, having my own babies and navigating my own challenges and feeling like I didn't really have anybody to go to. I didn't have great guidance. And so that probably sparked some of it too. Yeah. So just a love for moms and babies too.
That's a very similar story for most of the guests we've had on here, is they've gone through something and they became passionate about helping other people once they've learned how to help themselves, they start helping others with the same thing. So would I be fair to say this is like a mission and a passion for you?
Oh, definitely. I mean, God placed it on my heart a long time ago. And so just a passion for moms to have the education that they need to make the right decisions for how they want to feed their baby, whether it's a day or a week or a month. I just want to give them the knowledge that they're seeking so they can make that right choice.
Awesome. So I'm curious, what are some of the most common questions that new moms will have when they first start breastfeeding?
I think the two most common questions are, how do I know how much milk I'm making? Or how do I know if it's enough? Will I make milk? And also, is my baby getting enough? Moms are always so worried as mothers about what our kids are doing and what they're eating. And so, am I making enough? And is the baby getting enough? Those are the two most common for sure.
Yeah. And by visiting them and seeing them in the house or them coming to you, you can really help them to.
Yeah. We can weigh babies. We can watch feedings. I mean, my number one tool is to observe a feeding. I don't need a scale or other things. Those are helpful, but just watching that baby feed and latch and nurse and suck and how they're swallowing is such a valuable resource when you can, to help guide moms. A lot of health professionals will give breastfeeding advice, but we are kind of the only ones that observe feedings in general.
Yeah. And being a lactation consultant, you're one of the few providers that actually treats or works with the dyad, mom and baby. And sometimes, it's baby that needs a little support. Sometimes it's more so mom's body. Sometimes everything is great. And tell me about some cases or some times where you might bring another type of provider in to support the process.
Well, I work with a lot of other providers. So if baby is struggling to latch, let's say maybe we identify they have some asymmetry in their jaw or in their body or something, we might consider chiropractic or massage therapy or PT or lots of whatever modality the parents are interested in and what we think will work the best for this baby. So that's something that we do frequently is, look at the baby's body and how it's affecting their feeding. Because if their body is not in a good place, if they have a lot of tension, they sometimes can't feed well or latch well.
And how about moms? Is there other times where you might bring in a different type of professional to support mama?
Sometimes we'll work with their midwife or their OB if we have, let's say, a milk supply problem and we've identified and worked through a lot of common things, but we're just not making progress. We may need their provider to do some labs or something and see if there's something going on with their hormones or something that could be affecting their milk supply that, we haven't identified yet.
Yeah.
So.
I know sometimes we work with mamas in our practice as well, and sometimes everything is mechanically right, everything is going well, but sometimes that anxiety can pop up. Do you ever find being able to observe a situation that that's helpful to be able to help mom navigate maybe more of the anxiety or mental health?
Sure. Yeah, I've definitely referred moms to counselors or back to their primary care, their OB provider or midwife to help them get through if it's, postpartum anxiety or depression, which are really closely linked to breastfeeding difficulties. It's something that can really, add a lot of stress in the newborn period. So yeah, sometimes I'll recommend massage for moms if it's something, mild, but also referring back to their provider if they need some extra help. Yeah. I've referred to herbalists and other people who are more experts on, things that we can do to help our body to rebalance in that postpartum period.
Yeah, and so that's awesome. That what I love about lactation consultants and a lot of the providers that are up here is that we all work as a community to really support the moms. But as a lactation consultant, you're the expert in so many different things when it comes to making sure this baby is fed. What are some ways that a mom might, or what are some things a mom might expect when she has a lactation consultant come into her family and her situation?
So we're going to be looking at 2 patients, like you said, the dyad. So we're looking at what does the baby bring to the table and what does mom bring to the table? What are the baby's eating skills, sucking skills? What is mom's milk supply, her anatomy of her breasts, all those different things. So we'll usually do a weight and we'll do a feeding together. If she's planning to, put the baby to breast, sometimes they're exclusively pumping or other situations. So we will start wherever they would like to start. And then we usually optimize whatever feeding plan is working for them. We might need to talk about pumping or measuring for flanges. That's a huge new area of research about the size of a flange for a pump is really important to maximize your milk output. So every consult looks a little different. It depends on the age of the baby too. If it's a really young baby, we're probably focusing more on positioning and latch. And I think there's a lot of emphasis on latch, but if you don't position well, they can't latch well.
Yeah.
So we do that. We might check a weight at the end of the feeding if we're not sure, is this baby transferring milk or not? And then talk about a plan and also their hopes and their ambitions for breastfeeding, their goals, and then how do we reach those? And we might need to do a follow-up appointment, or we might need to check in 24 hours and say, hey, is this working for you? Do we need to make adjustments? So, yeah.
So it sounds like there's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes
Definitely not. No. Yeah, a consult with a 3-month-old will look very different than a 3-day-old.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
As far as what breastfeeding can look like or lactation support can look like in the hospital versus working with somebody outside of the hospital, what are some of the big differences there? Because I know I worked with a lactation consultant with for the first couple of days in the hospital, and then was very pleasantly surprised when I got to meet my outside of the hospital, what that experience looked like. Not that there's anything wrong with hospitals, it's just different.
No, it's just a different environment. I've done both. I did in-hospital lactation for 10 years. I have a huge respect for, working the hospital where it's very fast-paced. You don't get to spend a lot of time with each patient, so you really have to hit those really important points. But things change every day in the hospital, and even in that first week, every day things are changing. And so sometimes you can predict what might happen, but sometimes you can't. So working outside the hospital, you just see so much more variety and how things progress differently. Sometimes you can't really tell exactly what's going on in those first couple of days. It takes a week or 2 to kind of figure out, oh, okay, this baby, has this issue going on, or this mom, milk supply isn't fully established in the hospital. So things are just different. There's just a lot more to consider outside the hospital, but each has such an important role in the care, of these moms and babies.
What are some recommendations? Say, this isn't my first, so I kind of have a little bit of ideas, but for a first-time mom, what are some things you would tell her, if she's, expecting at 6-7 months? What would you recommend?
Yeah, so I really love to see moms for a prenatal consult. So we can talk about, what are your goals? What are your questions? We kind of do a mini class together, talk about how breastfeeding works and what to expect. And if you are returning to work, hey, let's order a pump. This is, the best pump for your needs. There's so many pumps on the market now, hundreds and hundreds. And a lot of them, unfortunately, are not that great for many moms that are returning to work. So we'll talk about that. And who's her support system? What is this going to look like? Does she have a partner? Does she have family? Because honestly, her support system is what will help her in 90% of her breastfeeding journey. So she really needs that support. We need that village, like you said, and we used to have that a lot more, and it's coming back. I think it's coming back, getting your postpartum plan together, but you need support. You should rest and feed your baby, and you should have people around you that are feeding you and supporting you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because feeding is a lot of work.
Yeah.
I can't remember the exact statistic, but to breastfeed, it was like thousands of hours a year, it's almost as much as a full-time job, correct?
Right. Yeah, it is. And those early weeks, the first 4 weeks when you're establishing the groundwork for that milk supply, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of contact. Mom and baby are so close and so intricately designed to be together. And that's to support those hormones and to get the milk supply off the ground, because you're really building up for that first 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah. So you need some support, and your body's recovering from, the loss of hormones during pregnancy. There's a lot of shifting. So yeah. So just being educated about that, just like the birth process, everybody kind of knows you should be educated about birth, right? It's really important to understand the birth process, but it's equally or more important to understand the feeding process. Birth is a day, hopefully just 24 hours or maybe 30 or less, hopefully, but feeding goes on for months. And so if that's your goal, to breastfeed for as many months as you would like, then so getting that knowledge early, taking a class, we're doing a prenatal consult are definitely, I think, gives moms confidence and support. Knowledge is power, of course.
Yeah, for sure. I remember with both of my kids, it seemed like the first couple of weeks, all my husband did was clean supply and pumps and things like that. So became an expert. So that village and knowing like what to expect is really helpful to know, like, and to have everything laid out ahead of time. I'm curious, you talked about breastfeeding can be months. I know there's no right or wrong, everybody's different, but how long would a mom consider breastfeeding? Like, is there a range that she might want to consider?
Yeah, so part of the World Health Organization is birth to 2 years is one of the recommendations. Now, that looks very different month to month and year to year. American Academy of Pediatrics recommends 6 months exclusively, and then from 6 to 12 months adding foods and complementary things to eat. So ideally, babies get breast milk for the first year. They need to have either breast milk or formula if they're under a year old. So they can't take in enough nutrition at, say, 8 months old by just solids and other foods. So ideally, babies get, breast milk for a whole year and longer would be great. But a 1-year-old may nurse a few times a day, whereas a 1-week-old is nursing 8 or 12 times a day. So the journey varies so much from age to age, month to month.
And child to child too.
And child to child, yeah. And milk supply is different with each baby. Each pregnancy you have, your body is equipped to make more milk. It's just wild. Yeah, every baby's so different.
It is. I can attest to that, to having two
yes,
ones who
me too.
forever, like 3 years and 2.5, but they were so different in both of them and how they.
Mine too.
Yeah. Awesome. So for a mom who is considering breastfeeding and maybe isn't sure yet if she wants to breastfeed, how long she wants to breastfeed, if she wants to supplement, what advice would you give her as she's starting to consider the different options that she has? Well,
I'd consider, her support system, but what does she really want, or what is her goal? If she looking at breastfeeding as a way to get nutrition into her baby, is it the relationship, and just looking at, hey, let's look at the first 6 weeks. And then you don't have to say, I want to breastfeed for 2 years. You can say, I want to get to 3 months. Okay, that's a great first goal. And once you get things going, you might find it's a lot easier than you thought. But I guess really digging into what she thinks breastfeeding looks like, or how I can support her, what her fears are, or, her stressors, I guess. Does that make sense?
And I love that we talked about this a little bit before we hopped on the show, that you also help with things like bottle feeding and helping moms to, make the right choice for them. Like you said, there's no right or wrong, 1 week to, 1 year to 3 years, whatever you choose to do. There is no right or wrong. It's a fed baby, correct?
I think I detract from a fed baby. I want an educated mom, a mom that understands her options. And yes, of course, we want to feed the baby. That's our goal. But I want her to understand that's my role, is to give her all the knowledge and tools that she can have to make an educated decision. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, I help with bottles, pumping, can I use a pacifier? Should I not? Back to work, solids. What does breastfeeding look like at every stage? I had sometimes I'll have a mom with an issue with a 1-year-old that just kind of pops up, teething, feeding at night, co-sleeping, not co-sleeping. So many things. That we work with, everything that surrounds breastfeeding. Because breastfeeding is not just nutrition and food, it is a relationship. It is the dyad, like you said, the mom and the baby, and they're really intricately connected during that time.
Awesome. And I selfishly asked a question before we hopped on, again, also about my situation. So I had a very easy time breastfeeding, but my children never took a bottle. And so for the mom who may be struggling with that, you shared some wisdom that I did not know about. I would love to share with everyone for moms who are considering wanting to have their children take a bottle. What would you recommend?
So we usually recommend, depending on the situation, but for most people, if you're returning to work or you want the option for your baby to take your milk in a bottle, usually around 3 or 4 weeks postpartum, we will start that. And it doesn't have to be a lot. It could be just 1 ounce once a day or every other day, but it does need to be fairly frequent, 3 to 5 times a week, and working towards whatever goal you need. So if you want them to, take a bottle because you go back to work at 5 months, we got to start before 5 months or even 4 months. So for lots of reasons, babies are very smart, and their suck reflex integrates early on. So we need to get them going by 3 or 4 weeks-ish, get breastfeeding started. I really don't like to start pumping and bottles or any of that in the first few weeks if we don't have to. If breastfeeding is going well, there's really no need to introduce a pump or a bottle until maybe like around a month old or 3 or 4 weeks old.
Awesome. That really made a whole lot of sense for me, because we did not do that. And I now understand why my little ones were like, what is this? Yeah. We tried to switch over. And just like there's thousands of pumps out there, it sounds like, there's also every type of bottle under the sun
so many
available.
Yes.
And you help moms decide if which ones are going to be best for
Absolutely. There's a few select ones that seem to work the best for a lot of babies. There's a lot of marketing, for bottles, and that this bottle is like the breast and no bottle is like the breast. But we can, use certain shapes and certain things that can help babies to transition back and forth in certain flows. So yeah, there's a lot of products, and they all claim to be the best.
Yes, they do. Like I said, we tried every bottle with ours.
Yes, I've heard that many times.
And so I'm so glad to know now that that's something that a lactation consultant specifically can also help with, because that will be something I will be likely knocking on your door.
Yeah,
for.
Give me a call.
It's like I got the other part, but what about this part?
Yeah, and when do I pump? When I'm at work. And we do all of that, and navigate even just normal stuff. Like my baby's waking up so many times at night, and my pediatrician said that my baby should be sleeping 8 hours, or whatever the case. And I'll say, that's not really biologically normal. Your baby should wake up at night, and maybe you need to ask your pediatrician why they're saying that, and things like that. So navigating normal is a love, like a passion of mine too.
Yeah, and really understanding physiology is like a really big piece of that.
Yes.
What is normal physiology? That's a huge question that a lot of the providers, including myself up here, ask, is what is normal? What are the variations of normal?
Right.
Common and normal are two different things.
Right, yes. Right. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal. Yes. And that
normal is just this huge, it's a broad range when you look at physiology, and physiology being how the body works, or the biology of how the human body works, the different functions for those who are not sure what that kind of big term means. And so, as from my perspective as a chiropractor, I'm looking at, okay, this is the range of normal, and I'm looking mostly at the skeletal system. But one of the things that we learn in chiropractic school is that the pelvis is very, very unique to each person. Your tailbone or sacrum is as unique to you as your face. So without going into all the details of what that looks like, there's a huge range of normal. And so really knowing what normal is as a foundation really informs, as a provider, how you would support somebody and say, hey, this is normal for you.
Yes. Yeah. I think we've gotten away from a little bit in sort of society of what's normal breastfeeding, what's biologically normal for mom and baby. There's been a lot of, medicalization in the last 50 years. So bringing back that normal, mothers and babies should be connected. They should be together. They should be, constantly in contact. That is something that's starting to turn around, and that I love to just teach what's normal. And what's not normal.
Yeah. Well, that has been very, very helpful. Is there anything that, we didn't cover that you think new moms, whether it's their first baby, their third baby, you would love for moms to know about getting support when it comes to feeding?
Well, so a lot of lactation consultants can take some insurances now. So, lactation might be free to you. We might be able to bill it to your insurance. So, there's always something to be learned, even if you just have questions. So I'd always encourage you to, check out a local lactation consultant. If you can't find someone, we are a very close community in DFW. If someone calls me and they're, 30 miles away, then, hey, I have a colleague that I know that you could see. Here's a referral. Or if your friend is, birthing in, Michigan, then we have lots of Facebook pages where there's lactation consultants from all over the US and all over the world. And we can connect you with somebody that, can help you.
Yes, I love that community aspect. And we definitely in Dallas have a community that's
We do, sure. Yeah.
So Mama, if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know where to go, even asking a provider who may not necessarily be the type of provider you're looking for, like asking me like, hey, do you know any great lactation consultants? I've got a list.
Yes.
And just like I've got a list, Stephanie has a list of different types of providers.
For sure,
well.
yeah.
So,
I have lots of referrals from chiropractors, and I refer to other chiropractors and massage and nutritionists and dentists, and so many things.
Yes, so you have a plethora of resources if you are in the DFW area and many of the other metroplexes in the world, but especially Dallas, you have tons of resources. If somebody was looking to reach out to you, Stephanie, whether they're a first-time mom, second-time mom, in the middle of the lactation journey, and they're like, you know what, I really could use some support, some help, how would they reach you?
They can go to my website, so it's nnlactation.com. They can call, they can email. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I try to keep up with it. But I have a website, and then they can call or text.
Awesome. And as we mentioned just a second ago, there's a huge network of people, but your practice is also within a group of other practitioners.
Yeah. So we're on the border of Frisco and McKinney, and we are just a lot of working moms, and we all have our own office space, but we have a speech therapist, we have an OT, we have an dyslexia reading specialist. So we're all independent, but we are called the Kids Collaborative. And it's funny how we overlap, though, because sometimes there's feeding issues with a sibling, and so I can refer them to the speech therapist, and then she might get a call about a baby, and she'll refer to me, and so it's great just to watch them grow.
A little community inside a big community.
Yes, definitely.
Which is awesome. Well, I'm so glad you're able to join us.
Thank you for having me.
Mamas, like we said, if you need any support, feel free to reach out. We are here to help you. If it's not us directly, we have a list for you at the Dr. Mama Bird Show of amazing providers here in the DFW area that are here to support you. And if we don't have somebody for you, we all know each other.
We'll find somebody.
And we'll find somebody for you. So with that, I hope y'all have a blessed day, and we cannot wait to see you in the next episode.